Yer. What's good, y'all? It's your boy Bad Seed, aka Nicholas Cage, aka Larry J. Blige, aka your mother's baby father. And yo, we back with another episode of your favorite song, man. Where I sit down with the best of the best of the best lyricists, best of the best of the best producers, best of the best of the best battle rappers, all that shit, man. I sit down and I ask them, what's their favorite song that they ever did, man? Word. It's like that, man. Yo, check it out. So today, my guest is one of the members of one of the dopest production teams out there. And I'm not just saying that because he's here, but I have been watching him for a while, and I'm going to get into that with him in a minute. But ladies and gentlemen, introducing DJ Illegal from the motherfucking Snowgoons. What up, boy?
What? Yo, what's good, brother?
Word up,
Pleasure
man.
to be here, man.
Word, it's a pleasure to have you here, man. Word up, all the way from Germany. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Word up. Where exactly you at in Germany, man?
I'm pretty much in the south, like close to Stuttgart. Like I know, in the US, people know Stuttgart for Mercedes-Benz. Basically, that's where Mercedes-Benz is coming from. So I'm pretty south Germany to the Swiss border kind of type. I mean, compared to the US, Germany is pretty small, man. Like you can go from the bottom to the top in like 8 hours. And that's and Germany is more like a length country. So actually going from left to right, you can do it in like 4 hours or something, 4 or 5 hours, and you're through the whole country. So
that's
yeah.
crazy.
And Germany is the center of Europe. So we're surrounded by all these countries, Netherlands, Belgium, France. Then on the south is like Switzerland, Austria, Czech Republic, Poland, and on top is Denmark. So we're surrounded by like 8 or 9 countries, all the center of Europe,
Yeah. So you from that south side. You from that south side Germany, you heard? You from that south side, you heard? Word up.
Word.
Yo, it's crazy because I've been to Germany a couple times, man. I've been to Berlin and I've been to Cologne. And I'll never forget, like one of my illest experiences about Cologne was we was in a 5-star hotel. I can't remember the name of the hotel, but I know we was staying there, and it was ill to me because I'm a Brooklyn dude. So this was like one of my first times being in Germany. So I'm looking around, all the buildings was wild gothic looking, like it just looked. It looked like, yo, this is Germany, man. So I'm in the 5-star hotel. I'm sitting down in the lobby. I'm downstairs. We waiting so we could leave because we had a show or some shit. And sitting down in the lobby, looking at this beautiful shit. Yo, I swear to God, Legal, I looked down, a fucking mouse ran across the floor. I'll never forget that. I'm like, yo, what the fuck? Yo, the fucking mice is in the fucking 5-star hotel running around like it's all good, man. Word up. Nah, shout to Germany, man. Word up. I'd love to come back one day, man. Word up. And then I also hear that, out there, the market is really, really dope for our kind of hip hop too. You know what I'm saying? So shout to Germany, shout to the whole Europe, as a matter of fact.
Salute,
yeah, man. So I want to talk about you. So, I have been watching y'all for a long time. One of the things that really impressed me about y'all was the work ethic, how organized it seemed. I was on the outside looking in, and I just remember that you guys were working with my favorites. You know what I mean? Like everybody who was my favorite coming up, y'all pretty much touched production wise. You know what I mean? From the MOPs to the Onyxes to everybody, Wu members. Like you guys have had your finger on the pulse for a long time, and that's one of the things that really, really stood out to me about y'all. Tell me what really got y'all into doing this, and how did you make the transition into working with these big artists like that? Because I'm pretty sure it wasn't easy when you first started out doing it.
Word. Yeah, well, to keep a long story short though, like I came up in the 90s as a mixtape DJ, and I was looking always at New York, and New York is the Mecca, man. Like you know, the 90s with the mixtape shit, man, that was the number one source before the internet, you know, to get new joints and everything. So I was thinking, how could I from Germany, and this is pre-internet, right? Like now you go online and you get everything, anything, whatever. But like pre-internet, I was like sitting here in Germany and thinking like, how could I get some exclusive joints, right, on my mixtapes? I mean, it's basically not possible. I have no connections to anybody from New York. And it was just a little German hip hop scene out here. So anyway, I did my mixtapes. I started doing remixes, and then eventually I started producing as well because of the remixes. I wanted to do my own remixes. That's how it actually started with the producing. And then I teamed up with that from the Snowgoons, that Gunner. And we did together these mixtapes. And, you know, step by step, we was like always looking on the New York scene and you know, catching up with everything that comes out. And then I started traveling to New York in the late 90s as well, you know, Fat Beats and all of that, and you know, got all my stuff. But and then, you know, I don't know, man, like it was just always a little step by step, because people think like, oh yeah, the Snowgoons, you know, they do this and that. But like you said, it took a very long time. Like we founded the Snowgoons in 99. And our first record came out in 2004. It's actually that record on the corner over there. I guess, go up with Doja Race, Breeze Everflowing,
wow.
And you know, that was our first record in 2004. And it still took then after that 3 more years before we dropped our first album in 2007. So you see, it was more or less work of 8 years before we dropped our first record, you know. And I got all these features, and I had the pleasure to work with all these cats because of my touring. Like I was a tour manager here in Europe. So I was around, you know, I was around with PH 2-3 times, man, out here. And that's how we got the verse. Because I got friends with everybody, you know, on tour. Like,
R.I.P.
you know
PH, man. R.I.P. PH,
you know,
my brother.
PH, brother, man. You know, and you know how it is, man. When you on tour like 2-3 weeks on the road, like you eventually become friends, or like at least you know, you talk about a lot of music. I played some beats, and then, you know, so all these joints start coming together, you know. And we never, when we started the Snowgoons, man, we never had this idea like, oh yeah, let's be some producers and drop albums. That was never in our mind, you know. We just wanted to do music. And everything, you know, just came as it came, basically. But that's how I got into all of this shit, you know. And then luckily, more or less, we got signed to Baby Grand Records in 2007, and that was the jump off, you know. After that, it was just album after album, and like you said, you know, the MOP, the Onyx, the Goondocks with PMD and Sean Strange, and you know, it's so many, like you said, all the Woo features, like, man, so much stuff, you know. It's like one time I counted, and it was over 300 artists that we worked with already a couple of years ago.
Damn. Shit. Y'all are like, but it's wild because quietly y'all are like Motown of boom bap hip hop. No, for real. Like you guys are like, yo, it's crazy because I can't think of a production of a producer or a production team, you know, that even comes close to that many artists producing. Like even the greats, like think about it, like, you know, no shot. I love Preem. I love him. But I don't think Preem worked with 300 artists. You think?
Probably, yeah, but you know, it's I think it's also a different angle with us because, you know, when we started with the Snowgoons, man, like we knew from day one, we wanted to start this as a group type, kind of as an artist name, right? That's why every joint that comes out says Snowgoons featuring and then the artist. Because I noticed, Matt, early in the game, man, like when I listened to some of my favorite records back then in the 90s, like if you're not really into all of this shit, you don't sometimes even know who produced this joint, right? So for the regular fan, I would say, right? But of course we are nerds, you know, we are hip hop nerds, so we get into everything. But it always bothered me that like people were saying, oh yeah, this is the joint, blah blah blah, and you know, nobody mentioned the producer or the DJ or whatever. So we wanted to make sure that people remember the name. So that's why when we dropped our records in the beginning, it was always Snowgoons featuring and then the artist, right? And when we dropped our first video with Reef the Lost Cause, it was just Reef on the joint, obviously. And then people, Mad Cats was asking like, yo, so who's the Snowgoons? Who's that? Like, and you know, like, because they didn't see any Snowgoons rhyming per se, but the joint says Snowgoons featuring. But I think that was our smart move to do, because that's how we branded the name Snowgoons basically, and people start looking at us different. Like they actually kind of recognized us as an artist itself, you know, and not just as the producer, you know. So that's another thing. So obviously when we drop these Snowgoons albums, a lot of people look at them like maybe as mixtapes or basically like a compilation or something, you know. We look at it obviously more like a serious album, because you know, especially the later joints, because we always had topics and themes. So it was not just like a movie soundtrack or some compilation of random joints, you know. We always try to have a certain topic or a theme or something, you know, that goes along with the whole album and the style, like as you do your projects, as every artist do the project, right? Like, so I think that was a big thing why the Snowgoons are the Snowgoons, basically, you know, because we did all these steps.
Mm-hmm. That's an ill name too, Snowgoons. That shit is ill, bro. Like, how'd y'all come up with that? Like,
oh man, yeah, that was that. You know, like he was reading Calvin and Hobbes, like the comics, and in that comic there is a two-headed snow monster called Snowgoon, and so you know when we had the first idea of like some type of not necessarily a monster, but like just like because we two people in the beginning. We had this idea of this like figure with like two heads, basically, right? Because that's what it's always about with the Snowgoons, like putting all the energy of different people. That's why when you say produce a team, like we have Sick Nature in the team, we have also the Snowgoons DJs, like the whole team, the crew, you know, makes the Snowgoons strong as they are now. So anyway, this two-headed monster was like a real dope like image, basically saying, right? And so we just took the name and it sounded good, and we called it Snowgoons. So that's where it comes from the comic books, basically.
Yeah, that's fire. That's super fire. All right, so I'm gonna shift gears a little bit. I'm gonna tell you what my favorite joint from y'all's is now that y'all produce. Now, it's wild because your catalog is crazy.
Yeah,
you know, it's really tough. I found myself indulging and listening to stuff that I haven't heard because you know I wanted to give it a fair shot because I didn't want to just leave it at the shit that I already heard. You know what I'm saying?
Word.
I love a lot of shit, man. I was even gonna say what was the Onyx project? Was it
Wake the Fuck Up?
Wake the Fuck Up, the Wake the Fuck Up shit. Because it felt really nostalgic, like that, like Back the Fuck Up. That's what it felt like. But I'm gonna go ahead and say my favorite Snowgoon record. I gotta do this, y'all. Sorry, but my favorite Snowgoon record is the record I have with y'all. Already Dead.
That's
yo, but I'm gonna tell you why, and it's not just because it's me. I'm gonna take myself out of it. That beat is probably one of y'all's illest beats because it's kind of different from what y'all usually do. You know what I'm saying? It's the same, but it's different, and it's kind of different, right? And it was different for me as an artist too. You know what I'm saying? Like it just was different. The pace of it, and then just the approach of how I felt when I wrote the record. Like that beat made me do that on that. Like that beat was just so like, boy, you better not. And on top of that, it was the respect for y'all. Like I was like, listen, I know I have to body this. I know I have to. So that was just there. And it was such a fucking honor to work with y'all. And then we got the Blood in the Snow joint too. That's crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, but to me, my favorite Snowgoon record is Already Dead, bro. Already Dead, man. Well, tell me about your perspective of that record.
Yeah, man, it's definitely an absolute super dope record. Like probably also one of my favorite from last year, right? We did this joint last year, and like you said, it is definitely something a little bit different from the usually shit we're doing, you know. But I always also try to tell people when you know I stopped listening to a lot of or actually read a lot of comments and shit online, right? I used to like read a lot what people write, and you know, of course, yo man, you know this. It's so many discussions in hip hop. Like, was just thinking when you had the discussion, JC Nas, and you know, it's all opinions at the end of the day, right? So I never really get offended anymore if somebody's saying like, "Oh, this shit is whack," and it sounds the same, and blah blah blah. It's just people's opinion, obviously, you know. And,
absolutely.
Because you can also discuss the same about pizza, you know what I'm saying? Like somebody say like this pizza is whack and this pizza is whack, but at the end of the day, it's pizza, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, so with this joint, you know, I always try to tell people because like you mentioned, Snowgoons always get put in this category of like they just doing boom bap beats and they sound like 90s or whatever. And actually before now we in that, I would say in that circle of the boom bap producers. And before that, like years ago, we was like more on some like epic movie type kind of shit, right? If you listen to the older Snowgoons stuff, you can hear like a lot of movie type kind of shit, like epic, you know, like beats. And so back then, always a lot of people were saying like, Snowgoons, they always sound the same and so aggressive and this and blah, 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 you know. And I always try to tell them, listen, if you're going to check out the Snowgoons album, you always find like other joints on there, right? So it's not like that when you only know this one famous song that all the joints sound like that, you know what I'm saying? And so with the Already Dead joint, it's kind of the same, you know. When I send you all these beats, I'm sure this beat definitely peaked out, you know, because it sounded different from what we usually do, you know. And what you just said, man, I experienced that 2 or 3 times, and that leads actually exactly to what I wanted to talk about, my favorite song, which we go into in a little bit, I guess. But it's exactly what you said when you heard that song, that beat made you do it, basically, right? And I think this is the most important thing about music, you know, when it catches you and brings us artists in a different mood. Even you are a writer, more or less, right? And I'm more like a producer. I you know, I don't write rhymes, but it is at the end of the day, bottom line is like we all do the creative part and get influenced by music and sounds and melodies and drums and everything, you know, and it puts these pictures in our head. Like when I produce, I listen to a loop and then already in my head, I form like the, you know, like the drums and the loops and all of that, right? And it's probably the same with you though. When you hear a beat, you probably have already like one line or something in your head or like a topic, and you know in which direction you're gonna go, you see? So the progress is even producer or MC, doesn't matter, it's like the same, you know? And with the Already Dead joint, man, like I had that beat on the side for a minute, right? Because I knew even when I do beats, sometimes I do like 4 or 5 beats in a session, and then I come out of the session and then I know, okay, I got like one super dope one, and I got another one that's all right, and then 2, 3 they're like whatever, right? Like that's it's like when you write, you sometimes you have like super dope lines, and sometimes it's like you already know it's not your top game, right? But with this beat, I knew it is a banger, so I put it aside specifically, right? And then when I send it to you, I mean, you know, the funny part is also I send so many beats to so many artists, right? And sometimes I think like, oh, you know what, this is a perfect whatever, like Onyx type beat, or this is a perfect MOP type kind of beat or whatever. And I send it to them and they don't pick these beats, you know, they sometimes go for something different. And of course it's like, sometimes it's in the mood you are, sometimes it's, you know, so, but with this one, I wasn't sure like if you even dig it, you know, but then of course you picked it and you killed it. So that's.
Off rip. Like the minute I heard it, I said, oh yeah, that right there, that's what I'm looking for. Eureka. Word up. So tell me, but before we get into what your favorite joint is, tell me a story about an artist that you always wanted to work with, that you finally got to work with, and what was that like?
Whew, if I think about that right now, well, yeah, I think I definitely got to say Onyx, like because even as a kid, man, in I was in the early 90s, I was watching Yo MTV Raps, right? Like this is again the pre-internet shit, right? And here in Germany, man, like you barely could get some news. Like all there was Young TV Raps. That was the source for us, like because
Facts.
we saw new videos, new songs, like, and we didn't have the radio like you had in New York.
Right,
So
right.
the only new music was coming either through the record stores or through the TV basically. And Young TV Raps was the only real hip hop thing out there, at least in Europe. So even when I remember when Slam and shit came on the TV, I was like, there is actually a video. I still try to find it for my friends. Like we had a little like house party back then, and one of my friends had these camcorders back then. This must have been like '94, man, right? And he had this little camcorders where you could already record because it was not like back then like that. Everybody had a camera or something to record, but he was filming a little bit of the house party we had, and then we put on Young TV Raps on video VCR. Like we recorded it and then watched it again, obviously. So we let it play, and then Slam was coming on, and we was all like kind of house party style jumping in the crib, So I wanna definitely find this video and post it. But anyway, so Onyx has been always one of my favorites, because they're like so unique with their aggressiveness and their style and everything, like it's, and man, you gotta understand, man, I'm like this, I was a fucking teenager in the 90s, white little kid from Germany, and I barely could speak English, but hip hop always spoke to me, you know what I'm saying? Like I could feel these words even without speaking like English properly. I understood little lines and whatever, but I never understood mostly of the whole thing, but it still spoke to me in a way. And that's what I love about the music too, though, like because music is such a universal language, in without even saying something. But yeah, so and then fast forward, in like 2014, we was on tour with MOP in Europe, and we had this show with Onyx. And I have seen Onyx one or two times before on some shows, but like I barely can't remember their show because it was only Fredro and Sticky. This was at the time when they already kind of separated with Sunseas, and they had, like their show wasn't really tight and everything, and there was all over the place. And anyway, so we had this show in Munich together. It was Munich, I do remember. And so I gave Fredro in the backstage. That was the first time I spoke to Fredro, basically. I was like, yo, we did this MOP album. We got some beats. You want to listen? And he acted like, or at least like, he wasn't impressed at all, He was like, oh, yeah, thanks. Took the CD and just walking his weed, and I was like, oh, okay, he probably not going to listen to it. He's going to throw it away after he leaves the venue,
Nice.
So yeah, but then like a couple of days later, so basically that was it, right? On the CD, this was still a CD, in 2014, man. Like, because I didn't know, like, is he gonna, if he's gonna give me his email or whatever. But I wrote on the email, on the CD, my email. And then I don't know, like 5-6 days later, I guess he was listening in the car while on tour, because who got a CD player even in 2014, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So he was probably listening to the beats, and then he hit me back on email, and it was pretty short. He was just saying like, I think he sent it his number, and he was saying like, yo, call me back for these beats. And I was like, oh, okay. So I must have been hitting, like his style, and which was actually true. Then like I think from the beats on this CD, he picked probably like almost half what was on Wake the Fuck Up already. Like that's how close we got with all the beats, and shit. And then working with them, man, like Fredro and Sticky, man, I gotta tell you, they're geniuses when it comes to music, like for real. Like sometimes when you look at the details, man, like they take a beat so simple and so plain, and then they make a real record out of it with the hooks, and they so subliminal, so like minimalistic, like simplicity. They take one line and repeat it through the whole hook. But at the end of the day, it sounds just great. And when you play this joint live, people go nuts and everything,
go crazy. Yeah.
So that was a big honor for me too, because I'm more or less officially at least the European DJ when they come on tour, and Onyx got this 100 Mad crew, and we part of the 100 Mad crew, so we all in a crew kind of, you know. So for me, looking back as a kid, standing in Germany in front of a TV on Yom TV Raps and then slam dancing to Slam when it comes on TV, and now being friends with these guys, you know, and doing music, like we have already basically 2 joints with Onyx, you know, 2 albums. So it's still mind blowing to me, you know what I'm saying? And that's something that I sometimes think about, like, Jesus, you know, like I love this hip hop shit and where it's gonna take me, you know what I'm saying? So I definitely have to say Onyx, man. Like it's always.
Shout to that. Like that's big. That's real big because y'all definitely have chemistry and it sounds like y'all belong working together.
Yeah, man.
You know what I'm saying? So we've come to the part that everybody been waiting for now. To you, out of all the songs you produce, now it could be an old song, it could be a new song, it could be a song that never even came out. What's your favorite song?
Right. So what I want to do here real quick is, because like you said, it's so many joints, and if I think about in my head, it's just so crazy because it's so many, right? And some joints have a personal connection, and then also it's the other side sometimes, like certain joints that got really popular with like our people who bump in Snowgoons are not even, let's say, my favorite or whatever, right? But so real quick to get back to Onyx real quick, one of my definitely favorites is We Don't Fucking Care with from the Onyx album, Wake the Fuck Up. Because it features also Sean P, and it features A$AP Ferg, you know. And when Fredro came to me and was like, yo, we're gonna put A$AP Ferg on this, I was like, A$AP Ferg? I was like, okay. Like I you know, in my head, the beat is so hardcore and so rough, it didn't even click to me, you know. And I'm not even a A$AP Ferg hater or anything, you know. That dude can rhyme like so. That wasn't so that wasn't the issue, you know. It was just in my head. I was like, I didn't see it, you know, because I knew some A$AP Ferg shit, but like on this beat, and I already mentioned to him we could add Sean P to it, right? And then he was like, do it, just hit up Sean P and I'm going to get A$AP Ferg. And I was like, okay, that sounds pretty crazy, but let's do it. And the joint came out super fire, you know. And then funny shit is like a lot of dudes telling me like that's their favorite too from the album, you know. R.A. the Rocket Man, for example, he said this is the craziest beat I ever did, basically, right? As thing. But so this is just one part. But now I really want to go to the joint that is probably my favorite, and that's Vivo the Virus Starlight from the Black Snow album. And it's because Vivo the Virus is from New Jersey. He already passed. So rest in peace, Vivo the Virus. And you know, when I got connected with all my Philly kids in like 2006, 2007, I got introduced with Reef the Lost Cause and all my dudes from Philly, basically, right? And at the time, I was only looking at like hip hop New York and a little bit Boston. I was already connected to a lot of Boston cats. But Philly was never really on my map, you know, like as far as underground hip hop. But then when I touched into like Philly, and all of a sudden I explored like a whole new league of super dope rappers, you know, like Vivo the Virus, who was he was a really super dope storytelling cat, and he was just so smooth and everything. So when we did this joint called Starlight, we hit him up basically and sent the beat, and then he sent it back the joint within, I believe it was 2 days later. And he was saying he never wrote this fast on a joint like that. So and it's 3 verses on the joint too, right? And now what is even crazier, now after he passed, when you listen to the joint Starlight, you can hear all his really struggling, right? Like he's saying a lot of shit in the joint. He says, for example, a line is like, I hope the struggle don't murder me before people from Germany find out about we from Jersey. Like we, that's Vivo the Virus, you know, shit like that. Or another line was like, and sometimes I feel like a snowball in hell. And, you know, and now looking back, like, it's just insane, you know, like, cause he was always speaking through the music, how we actually really feel, you know, and so this is a very personal joint per se, if you look back now, you know, and he was always, anyway, from beginning, one of my favorites as far as like the beat and the loop and everything, and just the way that Viral is like over this beat, this makes it to definitely one of my favorites. So I just highly recommend anybody like go on. You find that joint on YouTube and Spotify, of course. Listen to it, you know, and Viral the Virus, man, like he would have been like one of the greatest now, you know what I'm saying? Like for real. If you really listen to this guy, man, you can tell he was a different kind of MC, you know?
Yeah, and so you said the song is called Starlight.
Starlight, yes.
Snowgoons, it's on the Black Snow album.
Exactly, on our second album, Black Snow. Yep.
All right.
It's also, I think, just views and play wise, it's the second biggest song on our Spotify too. You know, it has like 7 million streams or some shit. You know.
Okay, so y'all make sure y'all go stream that. Make sure you stream We Don't Give a Fuck. That's on the Wake the Fuck Up album by Onyx, and make sure you go stream that Already Dead by me, produced by Snowgoons. And so what y'all got going on right now? Like what can everybody check out?
Man, we just dropped the new album, The Renaissance Kings. Got the shirt on, Snowgoons Renaissance Kings is out now. Yeah,
that's hard.
That joint just dropped like 2 weeks ago. We almost at the 1 million streams right now, which is super dope. And yeah, man. And then, you know, we working on some shit right now. I got to send you some new fire, you know. Continue there, you know. It's like I think you're the same, you know. You're very busy, man. You're working on so many different things, you know, and so I know how it is. Sometimes you lose a little track or whatever, and then you'll be focused on some other stuff, and then you go back, you know. So that's what I like too, you know. It's but we will go definitely back to the Bad Seed Goon shit, you know. And
our shit gonna be special, like to me. You know what I'm saying? Like because I know that I gotta get in a certain bag when I fuck with y'all, you know, and I like that. Matter of fact, I love that. You know what I mean? I love the challenge of it. So good shit.
Yeah, man. Yo, dude, I know you from the very first single, man. I copped all the singles back then, you know, and I always had it twice, man. Like I always had every record back then. I had it twice, the 12 inches. So we go basically way back, you know. Word. And
I appreciate that.
You know, and we have already a whole album with Lords of the Underground. It's done, you know.
That's crazy.
Yeah, man. And it's a super dope album because the Lords, they haven't been doing shit for so many years, you know. And we had this more or less spontaneous idea when they was on tour, like, yo, let's record, right? And they told me they have actually never really recorded much together in a studio, you know, because they recorded with Marley Marl back then and everything. And they never really recorded together albums like that, you know, even back then, you know, they mainly separated, like, as far as recording, from what I do recall right now, if I don't say anything wrong. But we got trapped on this tour for like about 3 weeks, and we knocked out almost all the joints there on tour, on every off day, and you know, on in after the shows. Even sometimes they were so hyped after the shows, we went straight to the studio 2 a.m. and, you know, knocked out songs. So this project is super dope. It's done. And then the thing is, it would have been out already if obviously COVID didn't hit, you know, because in 2020, we had this tour going on with Onyx and Lords of the Underground in April back then. And if you remember, in like February, March type kind of shit, that's when the COVID hit. And so, you know, we put that shit on ice because they just want to release it when it's on tour, basically, right? They really want to drop it when they can tour. So we put that on ice for now. And then we got another project with Planet Asia done, basically. So that's probably going to come out this year. And man, yo, I can't go on. So, you know, it's like, it's so many projects, but I always say, like, just check all the Snowgoons channels and, you know, follow the official profiles and everything. And then you know what's good, you know?
No doubt. I'm definitely a big fan. DJ Legal, thank you for stopping by your favorite song and letting us know what's going on in Snowgoon world. Because, yo, real talk, Snowgoon world, that's the cool table. over there. That's the cool. Y'all the cool table. I'm coming to lunchroom with my tray. I'm just glad I could sit at the cool table. You know what I'm saying? Word up. Shout to y'all, man. Word up. And peace and blessings. And thank you for coming on the show, man.
Likewise, brother. All right, man.
Word up.
Thanks for
Word
having
up.
me again. And talk
Peace
to you soon.
You. Yes, sir.